Word. Sweet. Sounds good. All right. Next that we're going to talk about, what are some of the best ways to avoid some of these issues beforehand? Obviously, we talked about piering. Is there anything that you can do at home fairly easily, whether it be drain tile along the sides, digging out trenches, whatever it may be, that someone can at least take when it rains one of our 9 inches in an hour or something that we have not too awful long ago? Yeah. What do you do in that situation just to possibly be preemptive?
So, foundation issues. If we're talking about wall stabilization or settlement or anything along those lines, there's not really a home remedy. There's a lot of things that'll make it feel like it's not bad,
right?
But there's nothing to really fix it without there's no cold medicine. Yeah, it's surgery. Yeah. Sorry,
that makes sense.
And again, another one of those things where, hey, you can, as far as water, you can regrade the soil, you can redo your gutters, you can do all these different things to divert water away, but it doesn't make the problem less broken. It just means that you're going to try to exacerbate it less. If my car won't start and I got a new paint job on it and I got new interior seating and I got all these things that made the car look nicer, that doesn't mean that the engine works anymore, right? So if I'm going downhill and I get a little bit of a push of a head start and I'm Fred Flintstoning it, I can make the car move, but it doesn't mean the car is running. If you get soil to regrade, to divert water away, you redo your gutters, you put a French drain system on the outside, it's a lot of things that are going to try and divert or recollect the water and push it away. But your waterproofing system is still broken. It's still failed. Now, that said, I'm going to get in trouble. If you're dealing with the smallest amount of water, not even a towel worth, is coming through, then some work on your own, some trenching on the outside, some things like that are things that you can do that's going to make it to where water is building up at least a little bit less conveniently than it has been able to in the past, and maybe that can be an effect. The problem is that most people think, ooh, waterproofing, that sounds really expensive. And don't get me wrong, it is. But the amount of effort, the amount of hours, and the amount of other things that you will do before you go and see the house doctor and to actually take care of said problems, it's not really a whole lot of ounces of prevention being worth a pound of cure. It's a whole lot of, I'm going to throw these things at it and hope it's cure.
Right.
But you're not really doing any prevention. You're not really doing any repair. You're just trying to delay the problem. And don't get me wrong, I'm a procrastinator. I get it. I understand. I don't want to eat my vegetables. I don't want to do the things that you have to do to make sure that everything is working properly. But we all recommend that you go to a doctor. We all recommend that you do these things. We all recommend that you work out a certain amount and you have a certain amount of exercise because it's what keeps the machine working.
Right.
If something in the machine is broken and water coming through your house means that the machine is broken, that means that you need to do some kind of surgery. That means that you need to have some kind of specialist come in. Because, yes, you know your body better than I do. I totally get it. But when there's a broken part of it, that's where we have to talk about repair more than we have to talk about prevention.
Right. That makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. The next thing on the list, transferable warranties. So a lot of the stuff, sometimes these companies literally just go out of business.
Yep.
And warranties are SOL. Obviously, you guys have been in business for some time, so I don't foresee that being an issue. But what's your process when it comes to warranties being transferable on sale of properties and that kind of thing?
Good. So I love this question. My company loves this question because this is one of the real benefits of working with us. And not to make it just exclusive to us. If you're talking about a company that has been around for a decent amount of time, I feel like if you're talking to a contractor, if you're talking to me in just about any scenario, there's a good chance that they're going to say lifetime warranty, right?
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, lifetime warranty of what?
Whose lifetime?
What lifetime?
Yeah.
Or things along those lines. So the good news is if you're talking to a company, and Woods has been around for almost 40 years at this point. I think we're at 39 years. But we've been around for a long time. But we also work in a network. So even if Woods was to go into the ground, we aren't. We're doing great. But even if we did, it's still a warranty that's going to be covered by this huge network all the way across of North America. There's hundreds of dealerships through the Support Works and Basement Systems network that we work through that make sure that no matter what kind of work is done, it's going to be taken care of because we trust in the work and we trust in the actual products that we're installing. As far as transferable on sale to home, typically it's easy. For us, it's give us a phone call as the new owners of the house, and it's just like changing the utilities into your name like you would for anything else. We change the contact information, because here's the thing. If I'm fixing your house, I'm not fixing you. I'm fixing the house. Right. So if the house is going to go into different hands, well, my work hasn't changed. It's still there.
Right.
So that's how we operate. Some places they will do a transferable warranty, but you have to do it in a certain timeline, and you have to pay a certain amount to do that. I know I've heard some negative stuff on that. We're pretty simple. Give us a call. We're good to go. Cool. And some of those warranties, especially on the lifetime of the structure kind of thing, it is it's a lifetime of the structure, but here are the requirements.
Right.
Sometimes those requirements are ridiculous. Like, hey, the structure is going to be completely covered forever, as long as it doesn't rain in a Tuesday in June. Right. And if it does that, and it's gone. What we say is, as long as we're able to come out there and actually look at the system, typically on an annual service, you're going to be covered forever. Because as long as we're looking at the system and the system is operating, we can repressurize, we can flush the system, we can do 1,000 things to it to make sure that it continues to work in that way. So yeah, that just kind of depends.
Fair enough.
But most of the time they are transferable, as long as you're dealing with a company reputable enough to actually give you that warranty in the first place.
Right. Awesome. Is there anything that people possibly would do, maybe not on purpose, to avoid their warranties?
Yeah.
What are some of those things that are like, hey, don't do that?
So remember a couple of questions ago, you asked me, what are some of the things that you can do to prevent some of these issues or repair some of these issues without me having to come out there?
Yeah.
So the people that typically have tried to repair an issue with their wall several different ways, and then they finally call me out there because it's out of their hands. They finally give up. They finally say, all right, I got to go to the doctor. I got to go to the contractor. I got to go to the specialist. And then I go out there and I push back that wall with, let's say we do it with anchors. I do that, and they say, okay, great. That's more money than I wanted to pay, but at least it's taken care of. It's like, great. And then my office calls a year later, and they say, hey, you're due for us to come out there to go and repressurize, retighten the anchors, make sure that everything is working properly. And that homeowner says, well, I've got a torque wrench. I can repressurize them. I can take care of them myself. They are not built for you to do that. They are not built for, I have a tool that is similar to the tool that they use, and I know how to use this tool on other things, so I will apply. It's a lot of DIY. The other things are typically user error, we'll call it. I like to call it kids. Kids are usually the issue.
Fair enough.
We have a waterproofing system that does not clog because it is not in the dirt. However, that does not stop kids from trying to put army men down the inspection port, crayons into a sump pump, stuff like that.
Okay.
We build in as many fail safes as possible, airtight lids, things along those lines. But frankly, that's if something's going to happen. I hate to say it, it's usually user error.
Fair enough. And yeah, kids. What are you going to do with them? Okay, cool. So we'll move on to this one. Is there anything that you recommend to pay attention to when looking at a home to purchase? So obviously we talk about making sure if there are any cracks, the top being level, that it's not moved in that kind of position. Is there anything else that you maybe most people wouldn't necessarily see right off the gate that they really need to pay attention to?
Let's say the house is completely finished then, because that's going to hide just about all the stuff that I wouldn't be able to see on the front end either. Right. Okay. So you and I, we're looking at a house. It's completely finished. So I've got as much expertise and knowledge and all these lasers and fancy things, and it's going to be difficult for me to find a lot of stuff. You walking into this house, you're just got stars in your eyes because this house is your dream house. It's got the right amount of space, bedrooms, bathrooms, all that good stuff. It's finished. Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
All right. So we're both excited for some way, shape, or form. Go inside, test every door, test every window, make sure they open, make sure they close, make sure they do so smoothly.
Makes sense.
If there is a sliding glass door, we love those. They should be able to slide very easily. If they don't, maybe there's an issue with the door frame. Maybe there's an issue with the door itself and the sliding door. Maybe there's an issue with a window frame that's, it just got installed wrong. Well, okay, if it got installed wrong, then that'd be something that you'd want to have fixed before you moved into the house. So that's something worth registering. But what if you notice a couple of those issues? Well, that typically means that the foundation or the foundation itself is settling in some places. So it's sinking a half an inch, or wherever it is in some places, which means there's a shift in those things. They don't operate as properly as they should.
Makes sense.
Creaky floors, especially, it doesn't even have to be in a hardwood floor. But if you've got creaky areas on the floors, if you've got soft spots where it's a little bit spongy for you to step into, typically that means that there's some saturation in the basement, or that the floor joists themselves need supplementation, things like that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I look for, if you're in a fully finished home and the decor doesn't necessarily match everything else, right? Yeah. If I walk into a beautifully modern kitchen and it's looks amazing, and then I go into the basement and the basement is dollar store materials to get it finished.
Yeah. That
says to me that I'm looking at a basement where they might have been hiding things more than they might have been actually turning this into living space, because they were willing to and it's not necessarily true 100% of the time, but correlations, right?
Yeah, something to think about.
Yeah, so if something doesn't seem like it matches, I'd ask for an explanation.
Fair enough. Awesome. Inspection work. Let's say someone needs to order inspection, whether it be homeowner, agent, whatever.
Yeah.
How far out are you guys normally? A couple weeks, couple days?
Depends on the year. Last season, if you had called me this time, I probably could have been out there in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
This season, I've got some inspections that were scheduled. I've literally got an inspection later today at 5:00. It was called for in May. It just kind of depends on the scenario, the time frame, everything along those lines. So both, hey, get your calls in. Get your calls as early as possible if you've got any concerns. And then here's the trick of the trade that I'm going to teach you.
Yeah.
And don't tell this to anybody else.
Make sure to write this one down.
Yeah. If you call in for an inspection, and especially if you say looking into buying a house, you can do some things on the phone with the office, because that's typically who you're going to call.
Right.
If you might be calling an independent contractor. If you're calling an independent contractor, here's the first bit. If you're calling an independent contractor and they can get out there real quickly,
don't want to call a different contractor.
Yes, because you're talking to somebody whose entire business operates on them being busy, and they're not busy.
Yeah.
That's not to discredit anybody. That's just one of those things. Hey, busy is good.
Yeah.
That said, busy is not necessarily good in the field of somebody who's trying to buy a house, or somebody who's trying to sell a house, or something along those lines. If you call and you express that this is contingent upon the close of a house or something along those lines, what I would recommend, if they're pushing you too far out, hey, is it possible for me to get the inspector's phone number and try and schedule them out earlier on their own time? Okay. Sometimes they're not going to be okay with that. Sometimes they are. I'll be completely frank. I've given my office permission to do that with me. So if somebody is going to have me on the calendar 2 months from now, but they really want to get me out there in the next couple of weeks, great. They can have my number. They can text me. And if it's something that I can arrange me coming out there earlier, I will. Because, hey, the earlier I'm out there, the more opportunities that I have to go and inspect other houses. And let's be real. Business. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's my business. So
that's how you make a living.
Yeah, exactly. So it just kind of depends, but ask for as early as possible when you're actually scheduling, and then ask if you can have the communication for the person that will be coming out there. More times than not, people in my position, we're commission-based, so the idea of coming out there a little bit earlier, if we have literally any opportunity, we're probably going to.
Sweet. Awesome. Let's see. We got that one done. There is only a couple more questions, so I guess we'll talk a little bit more about pricing structure for you guys for now. So let's don't give me everything, but give me some ranges that you would normally see, whether it be small problem, medium problem, large problem.
Right. I'll do the not get myself in trouble version.
Absolutely.
So the way that we actually build our proposals for people is we do an interview first on the actual inspection. Before I look at anything, before I take a picture, before I take a measurement, I ask what's going on. What are the issues that you're having with your home? And we prioritize a list of goals that you want me to achieve, things that I'm going to be able to accomplish for you before I leave. So that way I know, hey, is this something that's a high priority for you? Is this something that's a medium priority for you? What about this other thing? Do you have any issues? We have water come through. Do we have any issues with mold or odors or high humidity or anything like that? And we prioritize all of those things. And then we give options. We call them option 1, option 2, option 3. I call it a need, a should, and a could. And we basically take all of these things that we had in the interview that we had ahead of time to say, these are the concerns that I've got. These are things that I'm less concerned about, but I'd like to know more. And these are things I'm not super concerned about. Okay, great. During my inspection, if I find anything that I think could have a negative effect on the health, safety, structure, integrity of your home, do I have your permission to bring that up to you? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, yeah, of course.
Right.
Great. Okay. So then we go through the inspection. I look at the house and I measure all these things. And then I say, okay, you called me out here for this. You have water coming in this one corner of the house, only does it on really heavy rains, but it's something you want me to get taken care of. Okay, that's why you called me. So that's my need. That's my 10 out of 10 priority, because that's what you were able to take time out of your day, out of your routine, to call us, to schedule another time for me to come out here, for me to talk to you about the problem that you know that you're having, and then give you a bill that's, let's going to be honest, it's going to be a little bit more than me asking you to take me out to lunch.
Right.
So that's the need. While we were looking into things and while we were talking, you told me that we wanted to also potentially look at, well, if I waterproof this corner and it makes sense, what it would be if I waterproof the whole house. Because this issue is over here. What's to say it's not going to be somewhere else down the road? And do you really want to call me again? Or do you just want to prevent it all in one go?
Sure.
So that's our should. Because you've already told me you don't want water in this corner. So are you telling me you don't want water in the basement? Okay. Right. Well, then this is what it would be for us to do that. And then we get into, hey, by the way, water's coming through these cracks in the walls. Well, why are those cracks there? So we're going to measure for that. We're going to see that there's not an issue going on with that. And typically, if you've got cracks that are big enough for water to come through, it means that there's enough pressure for it to be pushing onto the wall to cause it to shift. So this is what we're going to do to stabilize this wall. If that's something you'd like us to do, we could. So that's our could category. I have projects that vary from, typically we're in the couple $1,000 range for a permanent fix.
Yeah.
To I've had several proposals that are out there that are $70,000 plus for a whole lot of issues.
Right.
I'd love to tell you that here's kind of the baseline of, oh, it's a waterproof this far and this much. And, well, okay, do they have a sump pump? Do they want a warranty? Do they want a battery backup? Do they want to make sure that it stays dry all the time? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's no real standpoint. And this sounds like I say this as I'm actually backing up. It sounds like I'm trying to back away from an answer. The real issue is that we're going to try and fix whatever problems we can for whatever the budget is to fix.
Right.
But that's also why we say, hey, don't tell me what the number is that you've got available to you. Because
Right.
I don't want to just build to that number. I want to tell you this is what it would cost and give you these options. And now that you've got those options, you've got your grocery list in front of you, you can make the meal. You can pick the actual groceries that we're getting together. What do you want to accomplish? How much is it going to cost? Well, that's going to be up to you. Because we do everything itemized pricing. We basically charge a percentage of what it costs us to maintain our overhead, to get everybody paid as far as me, the crew, our office, things along those lines.
Absolutely.
But everything else is itemized. It's got its set pricing. We're not just coming up with it off the top of our heads.
It's cool that you ask more in-depth questions like that, though.
Yeah.
It's not just like, hey, let's fix this problem. It's, hey, why is this problem there?
And here's the thing. I can absolutely do that.
Right.
There are lots of homeowners that
I don't want to hear it.
they don't want to know.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, great. You don't want to know. Okay, so what's most important to you? You tell me, I want you to get rid of the water. Okay. How important is it that it goes away? Very. Okay. So what else matters? Price. Okay, price. Does this price matter more than the actual effect? Do you care about how much it costs, or do you care about how it works more? Because if you tell me that you care about how much it costs, and that's the biggest issue, I'm going to tell you I'm going to fix it for $50.
Right.
And then I'm going to take your $50 and I'm going to scream at the wall and tell it to stop. And then when the water comes through, you get what you pay for.
Right.
And then I'll give you your $50 back because I'm not a jerk. But that's kind of where it is. It's any time that you have, we're in a society where if you have a problem with your house, you're probably going to get a couple of bids. You're probably going to get a couple of opinions, or if you only get one opinion, it's going to be from somebody that you trust. It's going to be from somebody that referred referred you to them or something along those lines.
Right.
But if you're looking at a bunch of proposals and one of them seems really far off compared to the others, okay, you can eliminate that. But ask yourself, what was their goal? Was their goal to sell you something? Was their goal to fix a problem? Was their goal to find a bunch of problems? Was their goal sticker shock, etc.? So that's why we ask. No, I don't. Who cares what my goals are?
Right.
I'm in your house. What are your goals? What do you want me to do here today? Not what do I want to do. I want to help you.
That makes sense.
But you tell me what you want me to do to help.
Fair enough. That makes sense. Sweet. Well, I think we're going to be, we only got a couple more minutes here, so I'm going to ask probably the last one. I'm not necessarily worried about street creep. We can always have you back on, do something else. That'll be a lot of fun. You're not that far. I
can figure it out.
Yeah, there we go. The last one I want to know is horror stories. Give me 1, 2 horror stories. We got 8-10 minutes on here.
Okay. I'll give you the real quick one, and then I'll give you a specific one.
All right.
So I am in about 10 to 12 houses a week.
Okay.
Of those 10 to 12 houses, I'd say 2 are a problem that have happened in like the last month. Like, oh, we just had this problem and now we're out here.
Right.
I would tell you that about 7 of them will be a problem. But typically for us, we see an issue has been an issue for 3 to 7 years before we're called out there.
Okay.
The last 1 to 3, if I'm doing my math right, and I think I am, are people that I have seen before.
That's probably no fun.
And, well, if you think that's no fun for me, because I don't like making people, I'm not a confrontational person. Right. I'm a direct person, but I'm not a confrontational person. And if I am going to somebody's house again, it is because they did not do something to the scope of work that was recommended the first time, or they did nothing the first time. So when they get to see me again, because my office says that I was the one who went there, there is this awkward, here again. So it didn't get better.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's an air of I told you so without ever saying I told you so.
Right.
And I'm not trying to permeate that.
Right.
But it's felt. So those are some of the horror stories in that I get a couple of those every week of, hey, how you doing, Ed? Nice to see you again.
Yeah, if you're on a first name basis with your inspection for your foundation, you know.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I'll tell you this one. So the one that I use as a reference, typically, my best friend in the entire world, and you know a little bit about this. Mm-hmm. My best friend in the entire world, there was a time period during the pandemic where I was not with Woods. I was in California. I was helping my family out there. I was still working in network, but I was helping my family out in a different state.
Okay.
Which meant that I was not located in Missouri when my best friend in the entire world had an issue with his house when he was refinishing his basement. He uncovered a finished wall because he was redoing the entire basement and noticed several cracks that had this epoxy injection into it, so water had come through previously.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of these cracks that weren't injected and were new, and he was very concerned. So I referred him to one of the people at Woods that I thought he would just get along with best. I knew anybody who goes out there is going to take care of him, but I wanted to make sure that he was with somebody that was close and that I know he would have a good interaction with. And he got the wall stabilized. And it was recommended, hey, excuse me. And it was recommended that you've got these cracks that are here. You've got other cracks that have formed. Those cracks are injected because water was coming through. There's a decent chance, unless you do something else to collect water from it being a problem, that water is going to come through. And you're refinishing your basement. Do you really want to tear out this wall to finish your basement, to put it back, and then later you're dealing with an issue that has already been present before? Or do you want to take care of it all in the same go? He was pretty confident. Hey, the cracks have held up all this time. The other ones haven't had any water come through. I'm just going to leave it be. And he told that to the specialist, and the specialist told that to me. And then I called my best friend in the entire world, and I said, hey, I love you, but you're being dumb.
Yeah.
And he said, it's a lot of money. I said, you're right. I would hate for you to pay for it twice.
Yeah.
I'm talking about you finishing your basement. You're talking about the waterproofing. Mm-hmm. Don't do this. Decided to go ahead and go through with it. And this past year is and this was several years ago, back in 2020, 2021, one of the two.
So it's only been 3, maybe 4 years.
It's only been 3, maybe 4 years, and now he is tearing out floor to go ahead and redo it. And again, for all of you that think it won't happen to me, if you can think of a person that is in a more suitable position for this not to happen to than the best friend of the guy whose entire job is taking care of these problems. It's not that it's going to happen soon. It's not that it's going to happen in your lifetime. It's not that it's going to happen while you own the house. It's that it's going to happen. So you can either get in front of it, take care of it before it becomes a problem that you actually have to pay more money to fix because now you're redoing stuff. Yeah. Or because, hey, I don't want to lose money on the house because of this issue that could be there. And that's its own other can of worms where people don't want to do the fix because the fix means that there's a problem. And now when they're trying to sell their house, well, it's got this problem. No, it had this problem. Now it has this solution.
Yeah.
If I have 2 houses and one of them is finished and the other one is finished, but there is a warranty that says, hey, there's these braces behind this finished wall that make it to where this house is never going to move. Well, I want that one. I don't care that it had a problem. I care that it has a warranty that it's never going to be a problem ever again.
Right.
There's just aspects along those lines. Murphy's Law exists.
Yes.
Sometimes it happens to everybody. Sometimes it happens to just the incredibly luckiest of us. It just seems like it happens all the time. It will break at some point, right, unless you take care of it and keep it from breaking. We're the best way to go through with that.
Awesome. Well, hey, that's pretty much all I got for you today.
Yeah.
I super appreciate you coming by. Go ahead. Your name, contact information, all the things one more time so someone can get a hold of you.
So I'll tell you what. You can find us at woodsbasementsystems.com. We're all things basement-y. Website's on there. We've got commercials, all sorts of things. If people haven't heard of us, hey, it's real easy to find us. You can go onto our website. You can get information about us, everything that we do. You can find me on there, on the Meet Your Team. And frankly, call into the office. Our estimates are free. If you're not sure if you've got an issue or not, but you are concerned that you could, cool. Have us out there. We'll come and take a look. And if there is an issue, we're going to make sure that you're aware of it.
Awesome. Sounds good. I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.